All right. Okay. So thank you all again for joining us. This is a virtual information session specific to the evening and online MBA program. We are recording this session and a copy of it will be sent to all participants at the end of the recording. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Dr. Smith.
Introduce myself. My name is Rod Smith. I'm a professor of accountancy. I am the overall director of graduate programs, but I am specifically also the director of the evening and online MBA and the Masters of Science in Accountancy program. So I know a little bit about a lot of programs. In terms of my background, I got my PhD from UC Irvine. I actually don't have an MBA, but I have a master's in financial management. I was almost done with a master's in technology of management, and I was about halfway through a master's in taxation when I realized that tax was boring. But so I went on to something else. So I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about the value of MBA. Since I'm an accountant and not a salesperson, okay, I'll give you my viewpoint and you can make your own judgments. We're going to talk about the resources that are available for all of our MBA programs, including evening and online. And then I'm going to specifically talk a little bit about the individual programs and the differences between the evening and online. We'll wrap up and we'll give you kind of a summary of how can you select the best MBA program for you. So as Lindsay mentioned, we have 4 programs and we'll explain the differences among those programs. So if you're thinking of one or the other, that might help you make a decision. And then Lindsay's going to talk about the application process. Cal State Apply is out of our control, but that we have some ways to help you navigate that. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers. Okay. Good. So the value of getting your MBA. A lot of people say, well, I want a promotion, I want a raise in pay, I want a new job, I want to change industries. And certainly those are all valid reasons. But I think the most important thing is you're investing in yourself. So everything that you invest in yourself is going to pay long-term dividends. It's like putting in the money in the bank and getting compound interest on it, not so high rates these days, but I think investments in yourself pay much higher than those returns you can get from your savings in the bank. And certainly you're going to join a network of connected MBAs. We have people that work for all of the companies, all the major companies in Southern California, and some very interesting people, and you'll get to meet a lot of them. So that's a great value. Okay, these resources are available for all students in any of our master's programs. We have just about to get a third. We have 3 people working in the University Career Center that are designated to the College of Business graduate programs. So they can help you prepare resumes, mock interviews. They are constantly contacting employers in the area, and they can arrange for your resume to get in front of employers. And they also sponsor career fairs and other events that help you get in front of employers if your goal is to get a new job. We also have a very successful graduate mentor program also run by our Career Center staff, where as a student, you're connected with alumni in various industries, and you get to spend a couple of months working with them, talking about them, about career plans, et cetera. We got very positive feedback this last year about that program. And of course, a lot of workshops, networking, Toastmasters, and more. Some of that has been compromised a little bit during the pandemic, but we learned to do a lot online. And then finally, you have the opportunity to network. There is a graduate business student organizations, so student ambassadors that reach out to other students, reach out to people outside the campus. And we have a really large alumni network that you can take advantage of. So some of the other things that you can do in your spare time when you're not working and studying or sleeping, you can work with the Apostle Incubator and work towards starting your own business. We've had a number of people do that. Some of the people in the incubator came up with business ideas, competed in the Innovation Challenge, and won some startup money to go out and create their own business. And the other opportunity is that our programs are really convenient. So 3 out of the 4 MBA programs are aimed at people that work during the day. So our classes are evenings and weekends. Okay. Online MBA classes, the synchronous part of the classes would be in the evenings. And then the asynchronous part, you can work on your own in the evenings during the week. Okay, so our 4 MBA programs. Saturday MBA is kind of a mid-level executive MBA. They meet only on Saturdays for about 23 months. Right before the pandemic, it was turned into a hybrid program where they would go one Saturday all day, and then they would do the next Saturday online. But of course, in the pandemic, everybody was online every Saturday. The Saturday MBA and the accelerated MBA include an international trip. That was unfortunately canceled for them last year, but this next year, we plan on having them. The accelerated MBA is a full-time MBA. They take classes during the day. And like the Saturday MBA, though, they have an international trip. And I believe they're going to go to Ireland in January. And then the 2 MBA programs we're going to talk about tonight. The evening MBA is a self-paced program where you go to class face-to-face most of the time. Not recently, but most of the time. And then the online MBA where you don't necessarily ever have to come to campus if you don't want to. Additionally, if you're still thinking about your graduate school, we have 4 Masters of Science programs. We have Master of Science in Accountancy for former accounting students that want to be CPAs. We have a Master's of Science in Finance, and that really aims at preparing people for the CFA certification. The MSIS program is in Information Systems. You don't have to be an Information Systems undergraduate to take that program. If Information Systems intrigues you as a career, you can take about 1 prerequisite course and go right into that program. And then we have the Masters of Science in Marketing Analytics. The Marketing Analytics program is aimed at providing you the tools for marketing in the 21st century. It's not placing ads in newspapers. It's how do you use digital advertisements and social media, et cetera. The MS in Marketing Analytics and the MS in Information Systems are STEM designated, which is typically is really important to our international students, not so important for the domestic students. Okay, let's talk about the evening MBA. This is the one that's been around longest. This is our flexible MBA. It is classified as a part-time MBA. You can go full-time, but you can select the 1 to however many courses you want to take during a semester, sign up for those classes and proceed through at your own pace. So it's designed for working professionals. It's designed for people that want to be face-to-face in the classroom. Smaller class sizes, evening classes, typically Monday through Thursday, and an occasional Saturday class if necessary, but really not very often. there are some opportunities to specialize in the evening MBA program. So if you wanted to have a finance specialty or a marketing specialty, there's also some specialties outside of the College of Business, such as healthcare administration, that are available. More detail on that is in the catalog, but we're right now revisiting the specialties to see if we can focus on the ones that people really want. Okay, so this fancy chart is our profile of the typical evening MBA applicant. They apparently go up and down a lot, go left or right. So they're typically, on average, 29 years old, evenly split by gender. Pretty good students, 3.15 grade point average. For the last year and a half or 2 years, we've waived the GMAT and the GRE. Before that, we waived them based on qualifications. About 8% of our evening MBA applicants are international students, and a lot of our students come out of business majors or engineering majors as well. A lot of our Saturday MBA students are engineering majors as well. Okay, our newest MBA program is the online MBA program. We opened that program in fall of 2019. So this is our third year. It has grown every year. We had, I believe, 27 students, Lindsay, the first year. Then we went to 70 the second year. And this fall, we're bringing in about 120. So they'll be divided up into sections. They have full or part-time options. So full-time for the online MBA program would be 4 courses a semester. Part-time would be 2 courses a semester. Our courses in this program are structured a little bit differently. They're in 8-week sessions. So full-time students take 2 courses in the first 8 weeks of the semester, and then 2 other courses in the second 8 weeks. 8-week 1 and 8-week 2 are the abbreviations that we use. So our faculty members for the online MBA program are kind of mixed. We have the full-time faculty that teach in our undergraduate programs, teach in our other MBA programs, but we also have a good, strong set of instructors from business that have a lot of experience, and they can share that. So online MBA, just a year older on average than the evening MBA, a few more women, okay. About the same grade point average. There's really no statistical difference when you do the analysis. Similarly, we've waived the GMAT and the GRE during the pandemic, and we waive it. At this point, we're still waiving it for the coming year, and we'll probably revisit that next summer. We apparently have a lot of applicants from communications, but business and engineering are also important backgrounds. So here's an example of our full-time online MBA session. So if you were coming in this fall, you would take Accounting 500 and Finance 501. Those would be Introduction to Financial Accounting and Introduction to Finance. And then IS 601 is Statistics, and Marketing 500 is Introduction to Marketing. So the 500 courses are generally the introductory courses, and the 600 courses are designed to build on that. So 2 courses every 8 weeks until summer. Okay, we only have 1 session during the summer, and then you finish in the first 8-week session of the spring session of year 2. If you're coming in the spring, and we're opening it up for the first time for this spring, you would still have where it says fall year one, you can just cross that out and put spring year one in it. Then you would take 2 classes in the summer. For the part-time, you only take 1 class at a time. So you do 8 weeks of introduction to accounting 500, and then you might do the statistics and so on. So when this schedule was put together for the part-time OMBA, we only had new enrollments in the fall. So bringing people in the spring is going to make this a little more flexible. So you'll be able to get the courses that we want you to take first right up front. Okay, so if you're thinking about this, you may have already made up your mind, but if you're still considering your options, here's some of the things I think you should think about. And Lindsay put this together, so I think she believes the same thing. Do you have a strong need for flexibility? Okay, is your schedule such that you can't commit to a couple of nights a week long term? Okay, surprisingly, the online MBA is less flexible than the evening MBA. So you can pick 1, 2, 3 courses in the evening for the evening MBA. And for the online MBA, your schedule is pretty much set after you pick part-time or full-time. Okay, if you wanted the structure and networking of a cohort program, you would probably want the online MBA or the Saturday or an accelerated MBA programs, because those are specifically cohort programs. So I'll give you a chart that's a little hard to read, but we can make it available to all of you too on the next slide to help you compare these. So the accelerated MBA program is full-time. It only starts in the fall. We run that program through our College of Professional and International Education. So it is self-support in that you pay tuition. You do get a international trip. The tuition is $950 per unit. Typically, unless you waive a course, there's 48 units in the accelerated in all of the MBA programs. So you can do the math on that. It's 21 months. It focuses on innovation and entrepreneurship. And the typical accelerated MBA student is a recent undergrad. So this is designed for people with less business experience. The evening MBA is really designed for people with a little more business experience. This is a state-supported program. So the state coughs up part of this. And so our overall, if you're a full-time evening MBA student, your cost for the full program would be about $30,000. If you do part-time some of the time, it goes up because you take more semesters. So you can see that the evening MBA and the online MBA are substantially cheaper than our own accelerated and Saturday programs. And they're a much better value than some of the other ones in the area. I was doing some comparisons earlier this week. And, you know, if you want to go to USC, it's a great school, but you better be ready to cough up $170,000 for your program. UC Irvine, $120,000, $140,000 for UCLA. So Loyola Marymount is right down the road, and their tuition starts at about $80,000. So I think that we provide just as good an opportunity. We are AACSB accredited, just as those programs are. So that's a distinction that only happens to about 5% of the business schools in the world. So in all cases, they're 48 units. Online MBA, you can get out in 21 months if you're a full-time. It slips to 48 months if you're part-time. So if you're a part-time online MBA student, you tend to go a little bit longer, and that's why the tuition is just marginally higher. Okay, and then for the Saturday MBA, they get through in 23 months. They are on a modified semester system. Each semester is 10 weeks for them, and they go straight through. So there's nothing like summer or no breaks for them. As I said, every Saturday, and their tuition is slightly higher. They do their international trip in the summer, and the accelerated MBA does their international trip in January, our winter semester. So a lot of information there, and we urge you to look at it and come back and ask us questions if we don't get them answered during this information session. Okay, so those two, by the way, both go directly to Lindsay. So she's going to start talking about our application process now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Smith, for talking about the differences in the evening and online program. So both the evening and online MBA program have a spring and a fall admission cycle. And as Dr. Smith mentioned, spring 2022 is the very first time that the online MBA program is having a spring admission cycle. The reason we are doing this session just for these two programs specifically is because our spring 2022 admission cycle will actually open on Sunday, August 1st. And so that's this upcoming weekend. And we know that sometimes our applicants are very eager to submit their application very early. So we wanted to make sure that anyone interested in applying specifically for spring 2022 had an opportunity to come to today's information session so that they can be prepared for the evening or online MBA admission cycle. All of the other programs have have a fall admission cycle, and that will open in October. So the application process, the general eligibility requirements are that applicants have a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution. As Dr. Smith mentioned, the GRE and GMAT entrance exams are continuing to be waived for all spring 2022 applicants. So that was a requirement, but it has been waived for the last year and a half and is continuing to be waived if you are applying for spring 2022 admission. The application also requires that you submit a copy of your resume. We do a video statement of purpose and a short answer response. I'm going to talk a lot more in detail about these components. We also require 2 letters of recommendation. Our application process is completed completely online via Cal State Apply. So if you have applied to a California State University before, Cal State Apply has been utilized, I think, for about the last 5 years now, but it was previously called CSU Mentor. So a similar platform if you're a CSU alum, it's just now called Cal State Apply. You'll create a profile on that website. The spring 2022 deadlines are October 1st for our international applicants and November 1st for our domestic applicants. There are 4 quadrants to the application. We do have an application guide that we're updating right now to be specific for the spring 2022 application cycle. So we'll be sending that out as soon as it's finalized, but the link will take you there once it's ready. And the Cal State Apply application has a non-refundable $70 fee to submit. You'll also submit transcripts, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about that as well. All right, so this is just going to have, the next few slides are going to have some screenshots to kind of walk you through the application. And again, this is also in the application guide that we'll send once that's finalized. So starting on August 1st, you can select the spring 2022 term to apply for. And our MBA programs are considered graduate level, so you'll click on that to find the application. Once you've created your account and selected the evening or online MBA program, whichever you're interested in, it will then take you to your application dashboard. And so this is a screenshot of those 4 quadrants. And it shows you, how many sections are within each quadrant. So just as an example, the personal information quadrant is the first one that you'll complete. And there are 7 sections within that component to complete. it will show you the progress that you're making as you're completing those sections. And then once you're finished, the whole entire kind of button module will turn green and it'll have a check mark in it. So you can save your application and keep coming back to it as often as you need to, just as long as it's submitted either by October 1st for international applicants or November 1st for domestic applicants. So quadrant 1, personal information. These are the 7 different sections that will ask you to complete. So it's basically asking for your contact information. This is where you'll indicate if you're an international applicant or a domestic applicant. Quadrant 2 is your academic history, and this is where you will input the colleges that you have attended. The university admissions office will be confirming this information, so be as honest as possible. We know sometimes applicants have some difficulty with like reading their transcript, or there might be multiple GPAs listed, so that can get confusing. So do your best to provide accurate information, but do know that university admissions will be confirming this information that you've entered here. Supporting information is quadrant 3. And actually there is nothing that you are putting in here because you will be uploading your resume into the quadrant 4, which is the kind of supplemental program application information that's specific to the MBA program. So once you are at the application information specific to the MBA program in quadrant 4, it will take you to this kind of landing page, and it will have information about how to complete the various tabs. So documents, recommendations, and then questions. So I'm going to start to review more information specific to quadrant 4 now. We only require 2 letters of recommendation. However, the system will provide you 3 entry areas. So we only require 2, but you can enter up to 3 names and emails for recommenders. The reason that we do this is applicants are often apprehensive to only have 2 because they're concerned that maybe one person isn't going to submit the letter on time, or maybe they're worried because their boss is on vacation or something like that. And so we allow you to enter up to 3, but only 2 are required. A letter of recommendation should be on letterhead. So if you're asking a current supervisor or a director, it should be on company letterhead. If you're asking a faculty member, if you're currently enrolled in a program, it should be like on their campus letterhead. The letter of recommendation is a narrative letter, so they write it themselves, and it should include the following information. So a brief summary about how they know you. So again, if it's a professor, what classes were you in of theirs? If it's an employer, how long have you worked for the company and in what capacity do they know you? The letter of recommendation should also include a statement of the characteristics that they believe you have that will help you to be successful as a graduate student. So perhaps, they really admire your organization skills, and so they should give some examples of that within this letter. Or perhaps they feel that you would be a really good fit for, replacing them as their director or supervisor one day. And so they should list why they believe that you would, do well in the graduate program and why they want you to pursue this. It should also include some descriptions of the contributions that you've made. So again, this is going to be very specific and different to each industry. So if it's, maybe you've increased sales revenue, or maybe you were Sigma certified and started, supporting some lean trimming within the company, and you saved some money there. So what contributions did you make to the company that they feel is relevant to supporting your candidacy for this program? And then the letter should close with a closing statement of their support for you applying to this program. So do they strongly recommend you? Do they highly recommend you? And then of course, at the bottom of the letter, it should include a signature and their contact information in case the reviewer would like to follow up. So applicants are often a little bit thrown off because we do a video statement of purpose instead of a written statement of purpose. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about that. And this is probably the component that applicants are most concerned about. So I just want to put everyone at ease. The admissions committees, when they're reviewing this, they are not judging your creative content or if you have TikTok and you have 1,000 views, like they're not looking at any of that. So they want you to respond to the prompt. This is essentially an interview. So instead of doing an actual interview in person and you're meeting the faculty admissions committee, this is your opportunity for them. You can pretend that they're asking you these questions and you're responding to them. So it should be conversational. And as confusing as this is, both formal and informal. So they don't want you to write your response to this and then read off of a computer screen your answer. Let it be conversational, let it be casual, like in the sense of an interview where the flow is, a question's being asked and you're answering it. Applicants can use any video platform service that they'd like to. YouTube tends to be the most popular. It doesn't matter what video service you're using, just as long as it is publicly available. So what we mean by that is do not make the admissions committee have to log in or create an account or enter a password. Make it as easy as possible on the admissions committee to just be able to click the link that you provide in the application and go straight to your video so that they don't have to enter in any information or try to fish around to get into a platform to watch your video. The video should be no longer than 5 minutes. We recommend that applicants go 3 to 5 minutes for their videos. So usually the shorter ones are perhaps not providing enough depth to the answer. So we recommend about 3 to 5 minutes for the video. What you are going to be talking about in the video is what are your career goals for the next 3 to 5 years? And then what do you imagine or hope that your long-term dream job is? So those are the 2 prompts that you will respond to within the video statement of purpose. And again, you're not being, deducted any points for how creative it is or any animations or anything like that. You want it to just be as conversational and kind of like an interview as possible. All right, so instead of a long, written statement of purpose, we do a short answer written personal statement. This is truly short answer, so we mean short. It has a max of 1,500 characters, so it is essentially one small paragraph. And in that prompt, we ask you to write about a time when you dealt with someone who was difficult. How did you handle that situation, and what would you do differently if you could? So this is a short answer written personal statement, about one paragraph, 1,500 character maximum. And this is going directly into the application. So there's a text box that's only a certain size, and that's why there's this very brief statement allowed there. Okay, so after you have completed all of those components in quadrant 4, you have completed the application. You pay the $70 fee, and then university admissions starts their process, and they will follow up with you about transcript submission. So we highly recommend against sending any transcripts until after you have submitted and paid for your Cal State Apply application. If you attended a domestic institution within the United States and your institution is set up to send transcripts electronically, then you are welcome to do that via the electronic method. You just need to put in this email address listed on the screen in the when you're ordering the transcript so that it can be sent electronically to our university admissions team. You can also have your current or former institution send their official transcripts for you directly to enrollment services and admissions via old school snail mail. So it doesn't matter how you send it, whatever you're most comfortable with, or whatever your current or former institution is set up for. For spring 2022, the university is requiring an official transcript from every institution that you have attended. So if you were a community college student and started at a 2-year college and then transferred to a 4-year college, for spring 2022, the university will require an official transcript from both the community college and also the 4-year institution where you got your degree from. So just, I want to just make sure that that's very clear. It can be a little expensive. It adds up quickly, sending all those transcripts. So it's good to get started on that process sooner, but not before you submit your formal Cal State Apply application. For international institutions, this is both for our international applicants who are applying to study abroad on a visa, as well as potentially domestic students and applicants who attended international institutions. The Center for International Education Admissions team is involved in reviewing any international institution transcripts. And so there's actually a different office that those transcripts should be sent to, and a different admissions team is processing those transcripts. So for any questions, if you are an international applicant with international transcripts or a domestic applicant with international transcripts, it's always best to direct any questions about those transcripts to CIE admission. Okay, this concludes the information session component. So we will be opening it up for questions and answers in just a moment. I just want to give another friendly reminder that everyone will receive a link with the recording just as soon as it downloads after the session. You'll also receive a PDF copy of this PowerPoint presentation. We're going to open it up for questions, but if you have something that pops into your head after the session is over, feel free to contact us via email. Our office staff is continuing to work remotely during this time, and so email is the best method of communication. If you're interested in the evening MBA program, the mba@csulb.edu email account is the best method of communication. If you're interested in the online MBA, the online-mba@csulb.edu email is the best method of communication. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording and open it up for questions and answers.